Chapter 3. Humans are part of nature. Many people often make arguments about what is good and bad, based on definitions of what so-called nature's laws are, but often these arguments are nothing but nonsense. An appeal to nature is an argument or rhetorical tactic in which it is proposed that a thing is good because it is natural, or bad because it is unnatural. Yet there is nothing within the boundaries of this world that is not natural. This includes humans who are part of nature. Furthermore, nature does not exist as an entity, but is only a stand-in word to describe the material world. As such, the term nature is representative of that which is matter. Nature is not a deity, and any such definitions of nature being such are mere anthropomorphism, the attribution of human characteristics to the non-human. Anthropomorphism is irrational. This is not the same as human life being meaningless. Like all living organisms, the primary purpose of human life is survival. That is, the objective purpose of life is to live and propagate one species. Organisms do not live randomly or without choice in actions, for even cells have the simplistic form of decision-making capacity. Intelligence in even microorganisms is well established through observations made in experiments with them. All of an organism's instinctive actions ultimately have the aim of ensuring the survival of the organism and motivate it to pass on its genetic data to future generations of its species. An organism that has failed to do this can be regarded as having failed to perform its primary biological purpose. While it is possible for an organism to assist its species' survival in ways other than direct procreation, such as by sacrificing its life to protect other members of its tribe, or by producing things that are useful to the tribe, ultimately an organism that develops useful adaptations and does not pass these adaptations on to future generations fails to perform its primary biological function that most directly contributes to the survival of its species. Thus, that the purpose of life is to live can be the only genuinely objective conclusion, because this is what the facts of reality demonstrate. And because humans have a significantly higher intellectual capacity than other creatures, we possess a wider range of options to achieve survival than other creatures do. This superior intellectual capacity can often blind a person from this truth, as they become focused on their personal goals and dreams. But ultimately, most all of these choices benefit their survival in some fashion, or at least they perceive them to benefit survival in some capacity. Now, there are some people who believe that the world is a harsh place because of so-called human nature, but this is objectively unfounded. This planet is a vast ecosystem of organisms which are all driven to survive and compete with each other for survival. And in many cases, this survival depends on killing and consuming another species for nutrition. Human nature, or more accurately, those instinctive qualities that define the character of humans as a species, is thus the result of millennia of evolutionary survival in this harsh world. We are not the cause of it, and the world would still be harsh if we did not exist at all. If anything, humans are a consequence of the harshness of life on this planet. It is important to understand and accept that humans are part of nature. Regardless of how superior humans are to other living creatures, we are but a product of the process of evolution, which itself is natural. Furthermore, it is necessary to understand that the only laws of nature are those discovered by science. Going forward from this, it is also necessary to accept that what humans know as scientific laws are statements based on repeated experimentation. The scientific laws within our body of knowledge are representative of how the universe works, but the universe itself does not possess language or have thoughts. The universe does not communicate to us. The things we call gravity, matter, light, and so forth. The universe does not know these names because it does not possess language. These are only names we give to things we find in the universe. Nature is not a mother, nor is it a father. Nature does not create, nor does it destroy. It merely transforms from one kind of thing into another. This principle is known as the conservation of matter, and it is central to our understanding of the universe. Thus it is that this planet we live on, along with everything within the boundaries of this planet, was not so much created as it was transformed into being. This is what we know to be true about the universe. So when people make arguments that we must protect nature, or that we are harming nature, or that we are doing good for nature, or that something is natural and other things are unnatural, all of these arguments stem from scientific ignorance. Nature is a non-entity, and we cannot apply terms to it such as harmed or safe. That can only represent conditions of an entity. Nature is not an entity, and this must be accepted. Furthermore, nature does not love us, nor does it hate us. Nature, again, is a non-entity. It does not possess the individualism necessary to exhibit such traits as love and hate. So, for example, when a mass of people rally against something they disapprove of, claiming it will destroy nature, or that they must protect nature. What they are really doing is trying to maintain the status quo of a particular ecosystem within an area of this planet. An oil spill does not threaten nature because oil is part of nature. Nature cannot harm itself because nature does not possess an integrity which can be damaged. A product within nature, like a person, may have its integrity damaged to where it can no longer maintain its form and must change into something else. But such concepts cannot be applied to nature because it is a non-entity. Within human society, we have a predisposition to assume the manner in which a region of our planet has developed a particular ecosystem is some kind of mystical design that must never be interfered with, and this is often called nature conservation. But nature cannot be conserved by anything we do, because it conserves itself through transformation of matter. It is presumptuous for humans to believe anything we do can protect or harm nature. We do not possess this power. Rather, what we call nature conservation are attempts to maintain the status quo of a particular ecosystem due to perceived benefits this coexistence of the ecosystem has to humanity. While this is often the case that protecting a particular ecosystem benefits humanity in some fashion, when we misunderstand what we are actually doing, we spread ignorance about the universe and our role within it, and begin to anthropomorphize the universe, which should never be done. Still, there are many people who anthropomorphize nature despite knowing nature is a non-entity. This knowledge of nature is often remembered when it is convenient for a person's beliefs and ignored when it is not. Take, for example, a group of individuals who insist people should only eat so-called organic foods and defines organic food as that which is naturally grown. These same people also assert that we should avoid what they call genetically modified food. Yet what is natural and what is not? If the definition of organic is food that has not been tampered with by humans, then it is that any product of agriculture should rightly be defined as non-organic food. Humans have long since ceased to be gatherers to become farmers. The bulk of all food we consume is a result of agricultural methods of cultivating, which cause genetic differences in the food we grow. As an example, nearly all kinds of fruits that humans eat today, such as watermelons, apples, and grapes, have been bred for centuries to be sweeter tasting. A watermelon several hundred years ago was not even red-colored inside and had a more bitter taste until centuries of selective breeding resulted in the sweet-tasting, red watermelons we eat today. This selective breeding is a form of gene manipulation. Thus, the argument about so-called genetically modified food being bad simply because it has had human manipulation is a ridiculous assertion, and yet it is exactly this kind of contradictory argument these people imply when they discuss the merits of organic foods. What these people actually mean to say is that food which is grown using primitive methods of agriculture that produce inferior quality of harvest is somehow healthier than newer methods of agriculture that produce superior quality of harvests. This is nothing more than cherry-picking definitions in order to justify an ignorant belief they possess. All food made of organic material is organic. There is no way an apple can be non-organic simply because it has had some genetic modification. Genetic modification cannot make an apple non-organic. It is only the irrational mind that thinks otherwise. Furthermore, whether a person should eat or not eat something should depend on its safety to consume, and safety cannot be inferred based on whether a human has cultivated a thing or not. Poisonous things grow without the assistance of humans, as do non-poisonous things. Likewise, through technology, humans are able to render poisonous things non-poisonous and turn non-poisonous things into poison. Therefore, it is important that we decide whether it is safe to consume something on a case-by-case basis after scientific evaluation, and not based on irrational maxims like naturally grown food is always good and all other kinds are bad. All of this discussion about nature is important because chivalric humanism is a human-centric belief system placing human needs as a person's top priority. Humans are part of nature and our actions are consequently a force of nature. Nature is not a static entity with a will of its own. Rather, it is transformation itself of which evolution and adaptation are elements of. This is a fact that no amount of emotionally based opinion can change. Humans are a force of nature, and even our most morally reprehensible behavior is consequently part of nature. This may be difficult for people to accept, but it is genuinely true, and is central to why whether something is natural or not has no relevance to its moral status. It is natural for humans to want to have sex. This does not morally justify rape. It is also important to remind people that, although humans are without equal in our world, we still face dangers from other creatures. be they carnivores or parasites, it must be made clear that the virtues that are universal to human cultures are exclusive to humanity, and that the only value that humans share with other creatures is survival. There is no way to reason with an animal which wishes to harm a human to preserve itself, and only in the principle of mutual survival can humans truly find coexistence with non-human creatures. Animals are true to their way, and even a starving dog, the most loyal of creatures, will turn to cannibalism of its pack members in order to survive. We know this for sure because such deeds have been documented, such as an event in the city of Cibate, Colombia, where dogs abandoned in a shelter turned on weaker members of the pack in order to feed on their bodies. This was the only method in which some of the dogs survived long enough to be rescued by other people. This is important to accept. Survival often requires killing, as humans are omnivores requiring nutrients which can only be found in both animal and plant life. There are no inherent moral problems with killing animals and plants for humans to consume. However, chivalric humanism deters its followers from deriving pleasure from the suffering of others, whether this suffering be physical or mental, and it encourages humans to first use non-violent solutions to address social problems. When an animal is to be slaughtered, one should do so as efficiently and quickly as possible to reduce suffering of the creature. To diminish suffering is not because suffering is immoral in itself, but rather because humans tend to suffer psychological trauma when they are surrounded by the suffering of even non-human creatures due to our natural tendency to anthropomorphize. For this reason, it is unwise for people to create more suffering than is necessary in order to achieve human survival. But the intentional infliction of suffering on animals also taints the development of relationships of trust between humans and animals, which are useful in many situations. As we discuss humans as part of nature, we must also accept that evolution is not some kind of infallible deity. Evolution is a label for the process we observe where organisms diversify in ways that enhance survival. But what is actually happening is organisms with traits that enhance survivability outprocreate other organisms with less useful traits. This means there are many mistakes that organisms make that harm their survivability. Humans are no exception to this. We often make many kinds of mistakes while trying to do what is best for the survival of our species. Yet the ability for humans to learn from mistakes and build better civilizations on top of these mistakes is a valuable quality that makes human evolution unique. It was only a few hundred years ago that the moral authority of the Catholic Church tortured people brutally on suspicion of offending a non-existent God as a form of public entertainment. Today, these practices are universally condemned by the consensus of countries, which is the United Nations. Those who say humanity has learned nothing from our mistakes, and we as a species are not improving. Those critics are forgetting that they too are part of humanity. If they understand morality is improving in themselves, then they cannot rightly say that humanity is doomed to never learn from mistakes. It is also necessary to understand and accept that all people are not created equal, and they are not endowed by a deity with rights. While this statement was originally a normative one intended to suggest how humans should be, it has become interpreted as a descriptive one and taken to be literal by present-day humans in Western countries. This has caused social instability as people simplify the idea and ignore objective truth. The objective reality is that people have great differences. We are different in genetics, goals, talents, and other ways. Still, despite these variances, we can find value in our differences. We can gain mutual respect for one another by recognizing the value of individual talents, creativity, and particularities which serve to benefit humanity. We may not have been born equal, but we can be seen as equal under the eyes of the law and develop fair policies through the social contracts we form in the civilizations we build. I will talk more about social contracts and fairness in the next section.